Give me a value.
Joy.
Let's say I want to be joyful and I want to express joy and I want to be in an environment where I can express joy freely. But if I work in an environment where I experience people around me being like victims, they complain, everything is always a downer. There's a heavy energy because joy is one of the highest energy frequencies we can come across. As one person, if I have joy as a value and I try to live with joy, I can try to uplift others. But if it's 1 against 10, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very draining. So in that case, with your example, I'm not able to really live according to my value. I will be affected by this dense energy in my workplace. It will affect my well-being.
Susanne, I'm very happy and excited to have you on the Core Impact podcast. The first question I would like to ask you directly is, how do you see the link between inner work, inclusion, and performance on an individual level and organizational level?
Well, thank you for having me. You're jumping straight in there, aren't you? No easing in, no introduction, just... So the link with inner work and performance, to start there, maybe we should define what inner work is. So for me, there's the outer work, which is we can improve our skills, we can learn about project management, we can learn about strategy, we can learn about so many things. We can learn about presentation skills. Everything is like a skill that helps us to, let's say, communicate with others or function or present or communicate or deliver projects. Inner work, for me, is everything that is going on inside. Like you say, in order to communicate, you also need to do some inner work. But inner work is really being conscious of how I bring myself to the world. So let's say I have some strong emotions going on. Let's say I'm just about to write an angry email, or I have some issues with some team members I'm working with. Well, in that case, I need to be very, very aware of what's going on for me internally, because otherwise I might just act from a place of being on autopilot. It's a word that I use a lot. Because most of us, we do the same things over and over again. We think the same thoughts. We feel the same feelings, not kind of completely over and over again, but we have patterns. We have patterns. We have certain ways in which we normally react to people around us. We tend to get angry at the same things. We tend to feel joy with the same situations. And so if I'm not aware of my own patterns, I just act out what I normally do. And so when it comes to performance, that could hinder my performance as an individual, because maybe I'm not able to give feedback to others if I'm the leader, or maybe I'm not able to set boundaries, because setting boundaries is important, because I'm worried that if I set boundaries, I'm going to fall out with people. It's just one pattern that I'm mentioning here. And so you're asking a very, 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 very broad question. So I'm trying to narrow it down a little bit and give people some examples. So there's a massive link. The link is 100%, because how can I show up effectively if I'm not working with myself? If I'm not aware of how much of my own inner state of thoughts and emotions I bring to the outer world in my conversations with others and in my reaction patterns. So is this the direction you want to go in, Omar?
Yes.
Yes?
What I'm interested into is the connection between this inner work and inclusion and performance. It's not easy to talk about these three and link them, let's say, in a simple way, because the way I see it, in very simple words, if I'm not aligned with myself, if I cannot connect with myself and I cannot connect with others, whoever these others are, and when I can do both, then I can have lots of projects, co-work, co-creation, let's say, and then I can naturally have lots of profits. This is on an individual level, and it could go the same way on an organizational level. So what is your take on this?
Well, I think you need to define what you mean by inclusion.
Inclusion is not let's say the other way of inclusion is exclusion. So not to exclude anyone from, when we talk about professional context, it's obviously anyone who is working in our company, anyone who could potentially fit into our company, we could hire. So always look into a broader perspective and see everyone who could align with our values, let's say, to work with us. How do you see this?
Sometimes we need to exclude people. We can't have everybody on the project. We have to choose who is best suited. So I think we need to apply critical thinking. I don't think we should just include everybody. This might not be the answer you're looking for, but of course we need to exclude people, because otherwise how can we build the best team?
Mm. I like this. We already started with a kind of discussion. What I mean again is inclusion not based on values again and qualities, etc., or qualifications, but based on any identity someone else is having. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
you mean race and gender and...
For example, race, gender,
Yeah.
country,
So I think the link
age.
there with inner work, which is I think what you're asking about, is that sometimes we have what we call unconscious biases.
Mm.
So we actually, by nature, we tend to choose people to work with who are similar to ourselves, because something that is similar is familiar, something that's familiar is known, and it makes us feel safe. And safety is a very important piece for humans.
Mm.
It makes us relax, it makes us not be on guard. And so that's our tendency, is to work with people who are similar age, gender, sexual orientation, whatever.
Mm.
And so that doesn't mean that that is a clever choice. It's just, again, a default, it's an autopilot. And so if we have a reaction to somebody who is applying for a role and they are different to ourselves, and we feel that we have a judgment or we are naturally more inclined to go with somebody else, I think that's the awareness piece, to say, well, what is it in me? Is it a rational decision right now? Is this person more or less qualified than somebody else? And am I making decisions based on what I know, what is familiar? So is it a rational decision or is it an emotional decision I'm making right now? And so I think the link to inner work is, again, becoming conscious of our patterns and becoming conscious of our thoughts and emotions. So what am I thinking about this right now? What am I feeling about this right now? Because a lot of what we think and feel during a day is unconscious.
Mm.
So if we want to become better leaders, better people, better everything, we have to make more of the unconscious conscious. And that's what the inner work is all about. And it requires a lot of reflection. It requires that we can take a step away and remove ourselves a bit from a situation and look at it from almost like a third person and say, how am I in this situation? What am I doing right now? What am I thinking about this? Do I have any biases? Do I have unconscious biases that I can make conscious so that I can be better informed about my decision?
Mm. How do you feel right now, Susan?
I feel good.
How important it is to always ask ourselves as a practice, how do we feel every moment? I mean, not every moment, but every time we can think about it or like remind ourselves of it.
Well, there are some apps actually that are built now to help people develop their emotional intelligence, and they will do that. You need to ask yourself whenever you remember during the day, and you can log it in the app. How do I feel right now? And obviously, good is not. I don't think that's an acceptable answer. I think people go, I'm a bit frustrated, or I'm feeling joy, or it's more nuanced. And some of the apps have a lot of different choices. For that reason, to help people to build that muscle of how am I feeling right now, what's going on the inside. And when we're better able to understand ourselves and what's going on for ourselves, it's more easy to actually tune into others, because those nuances of emotions in ourselves are also nuances of emotions in other people.
Mm. Susan, when you decided to become a coach, why did you decide to take this decision? And how do you make sure that you don't go to this helper role that you usually talk about.
The helper, sorry?
Helper role or or
Rescuer?
pattern. Sorry, helper pattern.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So my decision to become a coach goes back a long time, and it was kind of gradual. My decision to study coaching was instant. I was exposed to coaching, I was coached, and in that moment, something happened, and I decided to study coaching. So that was an instant. It was a complete aha moment.
Mm,
But after I studied, I was still working as an employee for a number of years, and I was running projects, and it was probably 3-4 years of a gradual development,
mm,
and then there was an opportunity, and I took that opportunity where I thought, this is my opportunity to actually start working for myself and just uh, give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? And
mm,
I decided the worst that could happen was that I never tried. The
mm,
worst that could happen was that it wasn't what I thought it would be. But other than that, there was no failure. You can try it out for a year, 2 years, and if it's not for you, you can go back and get a job. And that is now 13 years ago. Of course, I never looked back. It was
mm,
amazing. So how do I make sure then that I don't go into a helper pattern? So a helper pattern or a rescue pattern is when you want to give advice to other people. And as a coach, we don't give advice, actually.
mm,
So I don't think if you apply coaching the way that a professional coach is trained, I don't think you can jump into that common trap, because a helper or a rescuer, somebody who goes, "Oh, Omar, tell me about your problems, and I'm sure I can help you, and I have the right solutions for you," and
mm,
I kind of, yeah, it makes me feel good that I can save you, that I have the solution for you. But the way that I coach and that professional coaches coach is that I ask questions, and we get into your head. We don't get into my head. We get into your head. And so we navigate together what you see are your challenges, what you would like to, where you would like to go, what you would like to achieve, what are some of the blockages you have, what are some of the fears you may have, or whatever it is you want to be coached on. And we look at what you have tried, what other options there are, which other ways you can look at this. There's so many different ways of exploring. So I'm not here to rescue you. I'm here to help you guide yourself. And I'm here
mm,
to help you think differently about your own situation. So I, for me, I don't see a big risk of going down the helper pattern. Of course, it makes me feel good when the coaching helps somebody move forward, but I'm not here to rescue people.
mm,
Yeah, my job is to help people rescue themselves,
mm.
because you're the only one who can. We cannot rescue other people. That's just like an illusion. We can only
Mm,
rescue ourselves.
mm. That that's a big one for me already. Susan, from your work, from your book, I mean, how to do the inner work.
Mhm.
Is there anything that surprised you during your writing journey or after you published it?
So how to do the inner work, I'll just hold it up. That's the most recent book that I published. I actually started it during the pandemic. I had it had been on my to-do list for a long time. And during the pandemic, I finally uh, had a lot of time, like many other people. All my travels got cancelled. And so I wrote that first draft that year. And then I actually put it aside for a whole year, didn't look at it for a whole year, because I felt I had some inner work to do myself.
Mm,
Because with me, as what happened for many people, the pandemic threw up a few curveballs. And I think many of us had some growth to do, and some processing, some inner work. And so I actually went down a bit of a rabbit hole myself. And then I came back to it a year later. So that was surprising. I didn't expect that to happen, because my previous books, and this is, the Power Project Leadership, I had a contract. I was contracted to write this book.
mm,
within 10 months. So I didn't have the luxury of putting it aside. And also it was less emotionally involved for me to write like a business book. How to
Mm,
do the inner work is not a business book. It's a personal development book.
mm.
So yeah.
Talking about personal development and healing, I've noticed that many do this, let's say read books or take courses or etc. And they do it kind of hobby. Like it never gets to the end, and they always feel that they need to do something external. Now we're talking about the inner work. Do something external to achieve something, but they still stay in this loop. So they always seeking to heal, but they never do. You know what I mean? So what is your take on this?
My take on people not doing the inner work or repeating
No,
patterns.
for example, they keep reading from one book to the other, to the
Hmm.
other. It's always about self-help
Hmm.
books or courses or YouTube videos, etc. But they don't have this, let's say, awareness that the shift should start from within. It's not like if I read 20 books, then I will be the master
Mm.
in self-help.
Well, there's a few different ways we can look at this, because one way is that maybe we're not ready. So there's a saying, all good things come to those who are patient or come
Mm,
to those who wait. So sometimes it just takes years or decades to be ready to actually look at what we need to look at. And all of those books that we're reading, they're all giving us something. I've read a lot of self-help books myself, and they all added something.
mm,
It is hard work. We can't just sit down and get it all done within a year. It's a lifelong journey. Because we are, in a sense, programmed from when we are young through all our experiences. And so unraveling who we are, unraveling why we do what we do and why we think and the way that we do, it's a really long journey. So I think all of those books are helping in a way, but they may not give the breakthrough. And then one day something happens, either a very painful situation, or we meet a coach or a therapist, or we go on a program. We could do something where there's a bit of a bigger breakthrough. And I think it can come from many different situations. It can come even from going for a walk in nature.
mm,
Something shifts, something
mm,
clicks,
mm,
or there is something that happens to a person who we're close to, and something clicks. It could be anything. It's not prescriptive. We grow from all the situations that happen in our lives, be they positive or negative. We grow from all of it.
mm,
And so what clicks for one person is different than what clicks for another person. What
mm,
gives us that breakthrough?
mm. Susan, I'm aware that sometimes I'm taking the devil's advocate role. So
Hmm.
to see things from different perspectives, and as you said, to keep having this critical mindset, to look at things in different ways. Since now you talked about hard work, now there is something that, for example, you mentioned this inner work includes, among others, breath work, meditations, journaling, what you just said, also going to the nature for a walk, for example. All of this looks simple. So how is it hard work and something that's simple at the same time? And also, if it's easy, let's say, why not everyone does it if it's that effective?
Well, it's hard in the sense that it's not easy to look ourselves in the mirror, because we all have a mask, and we all have that mask is what we want other people to see.
Hmm,
So I want to be joyful, I want to be happy, I want to be in control, whatever that mask is that we project onto others. And so doing the inner work requires that we take that mask off, at least gradually, and begin to look at the shadow sides, the sides that we're not proud of. It could be that angry monster that comes up, or it could be that really dependent, needy person that we're not proud of. It could be anything. And if we get triggered at work by some other person in our team, that monster could come out, and we like, oh, we shame ourselves and we don't want to look at it, so we bury it because it's too embarrassing and it's shameful. Even in small amounts, it could be, let's say, imposter, so lack of confidence. That could be a monster, a little monster that shows up every single day for some people. But how do I really begin to look at my imposter syndrome or my lack of confidence? That's painful. I don't want to look at it. It's painful. Because in order to transform these patterns, we need to actually spend time with them. So lack of confidence. Let me sit and feel that, into that wound, feel what is the discomfort about? And that is what is difficult. We don't want to go to the painful place. That monster that takes control of us, no matter what that pattern or situation is, we don't want to go there. But we have to go there and hold the hand of the monster for a while in order to make friends with it. Because otherwise it continues to control us. And it's counterintuitive because we think we want to run away from that pattern. We don't want it. We want to put a lid on it. But it's counterintuitive. We've got to invite it in and have a conversation with it, in the sense that, what is it that's happening right now? What is it in this situation that makes me feel discomfort? Let me understand what my lack of confidence is all about. Let me understand where in my body I feel it. Is it a knot in my stomach? Is it steel rods on my shoulders? Is it a big black cloud over my eyes? What is it? What is it that happens physically when I feel imposter, for instance? And that is uncomfortable because most of these patterns have a physical expression. There's a thought pattern, but they also express physically. And we can actually spend time with those physical symptoms to understand how it manifests in our body. That's what's difficult. It may be simple in some ways, but it's very difficult because it's painful.
There are two questions came to my mind now. First one, I would like to stay a bit now with your book, or come back to your book again. You wrote a whole chapter about living your core values. Why do you think is it that important to know and live our values?
Well, so give me a value.
Joy.
Joy. Okay. So let's say I want to be joyful and I want to express joy and I want to be in an environment where I can express joy freely. But if I work in an environment where I experience people around me being like victims, they complain, they can't, everything is always a downer. So there's a heavy energy, because joy is one of the highest energy frequencies we can come across. So, let's say you have the opposite, is everything's always a problem. It's a dense, you can't see what my hand is down below my desk. It's a dense energy. It's a low frequency energy. As one person, if I have joy as a value and I try to live with joy, I can try to uplift others. But if it's 1 against 10, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very draining. So in that case, with your example, I'm not able to really live according to my value. I can try to be joyful, but I will be affected by this dense energy in my workplace, let's say. And it will affect me. It will affect my well-being, let alone my joy and my happiness. It will affect me physically, probably. So that's one example. There are many other examples. Let's say I have a value of authenticity or honesty, and if I'm in an environment where I try to be my authentic self and I try to be honest and I do that, but it's not being met by people around me, I can try to still be that way. But at some point I may conclude that I can't fully live and express myself according to my core values, and it's best for me to find another environment. In this case, another job, or it could also be more specifically, let's say my biggest value is travel and freedom, but I'm stuck in a 9-to-5 job where I have absolutely zero flexibility. That's also an example of a situation where my values, what I truly desire, is so different to my current day reality. And then you can unpack, where do these values come from? What is it you're missing in your life? We could unpack and we could challenge that. But that's one example of how if we live in an environment that's not reflecting our core values, then if we do that for a long time, we'll probably, our well-being will be negatively affected.
Mhm. While you are listening to the Core Impact podcast, please take a moment to pause and share with me. How do you feel? Are you enjoying the conversation, feeling inspired, or something else? I would love to know your feelings in the comments. There are people who say over-communicating about expectations and purpose in our team is a waste of time, and we should do the real work instead. So what do you think about this?
Expectations are very important. So let's take it at the different levels. So at one level, when we deliver a project, we need to set expectations about what we're delivering. Otherwise, we have no chance of actually delivering anything useful, because we might just make assumptions, because that's the opposite. When we don't set expectations, we make assumptions about what the other person needs. And so if I enter, so that's important. What's the next level? It's at employment level. Let's say my new role. What is expected of me in my role as a team member, as a leader, as a manager? What does my boss expect of me? What do I expect of new team members? I don't think we have to spend a week talking about expectations, but I do think it's important that we talk about 6 months from now, if we look back, what would make us say that our working relationship was successful? What would make you say, Mr. and Mrs. Boss, at my yearly appraisal, that I've done a good job? I want to hear how you're going to evaluate me. And then let's swap seats and turn the tables, and I can tell you as an employee what would make me say in a year's time or in 6 months' time that you have been a great manager. That's important. It's very, very important to understand what people's expectations are. This is not over communicating. Having a conversation like this is not over communicating. We don't have to go down to the nth degree of how I want you to say things during a meeting and how I expect you to do the PowerPoint presentations. We're just talking about the broad outlines of expectations. I mean, some companies do have very set objectives, and I may need people to deliver on all these objectives. That's a bit more specific. The other thing that's important to say when we talk about expectations and the workplace is that we have a tendency to talk about the hard objectives. So I expect you to deliver this. I expect you to run this type of meeting. I expect you to know about this subject or whatever it is. We're not so good at setting expectations regarding behaviors. That's more difficult. And I think that's an important conversation. So, for instance, I expect that my managers are able to give feedback, honest feedback, in a sensitive way, not in an insensitive way, so that they're able to give constructive feedback. That could be a conversation to have around a behavior. Or I expect that you will be able to set boundaries in a rational way without showing too much anger, or you know what I mean. It's so having those delicate and difficult, challenging conversations. That's these conversations are about somebody's behavior, and that's not easy for people to have these conversations because we're not used to think that way, but they're important. Another example I can give you at a team level. What do we expect from each other in terms of showing up for meetings? What happens if we show up late? Can we still make decisions if somebody's not there? What happens if one team member doesn't deliver their work? What do we do collectively about that? That's about behavior. How do we hold somebody to account within the team? There's no right or wrong answer here, but that would be a way for the team to set expectations with each other. How do we do this thing? Let's say we have 6 team members. How do we do that? Do we give each other constructive feedback? How do we do that so that we can be honest, and on the other hand, don't, we need to be sensitive. We don't want to walk around and hurting each other or making each other feel uncomfortable. That's about expectations, and it's about the behavior. What do we expect from each other's behavior?
Mm.
Very
How
powerful.
important, since you talked about, or you talk a lot about self-awareness, how important it is to be aware of where the other person is coming from, not talking about culture, for example, among other things, of course.
Could you give context?
For example, when I give feedback about or go to this confrontational conversations, or say what I'm expecting from my coworker, from my colleague, from my boss, etc., to know where does he come from, when he was raised, as an example, or in which country, or what style of leadership maybe he has.
Mm. I think we can elicit that through questions. So I don't need to know if I'm giving feedback to somebody from or setting expectations with a team member from Asia or Middle East or Europe or US. I don't need them to tell me about their childhood to do that. All I need to say is, this is my expectation. What do you think of that? How does that fit in with your expectations? And they can say, oh, in my culture, we're not used to saying no. Oh, that's interesting. How would you do it then? How would you set boundaries if you're not able to say no? Because in some cultures, they don't say no. In some cultures, like especially the Chinese culture.
Mm.
So if we exchange those expectations in respectful way, in the right way, it's to ask questions and to say, how does this land with you? I've expressed my view. Now I want to listen to your view. Then automatically embedded in that will be the other person's cultural references. I don't need to ask explicitly.
Mm.
It will be wrapped in their responses. So I just need to be open enough to listen to what they're saying.
Suzanne, there is something also you mentioned before. You talk about part of this inner work when you are above this line, what you said, in this creative mode, let's say, you can feel joy, and you said that joy is one of the highest emotions, right? If I do this inner work, really, can I stay in a joyful state consistently?
What do you think?
Like, regardless of what happens, regardless of the external circumstances, anything that happens in my life from outside.
What do you think the answer is?
I like that. I think this is for so far one of the at the core impact podcast. This is the most guest that is asking me back questions, and made me think also. I think there's no need for perfection, but at least I can be in this state most of the time.
So I think somebody like the Dalai Lama, who has done a huge amounts of work on himself and who is filled with a lot of joy and who is laughing a lot, could potentially spend most of their time in joy. But I don't know that. I mean, we are human after all, and it is human to feel different emotions. Let's say there's a tiger walking past my window. I should not feel joy. I should
Mm,
feel fear, and I should in that
mm,
moment decide very quickly, am I going to hide? Am I going to run? What am I going to do? So in a modern environment, with all the exposures we have, with all the events going on, it is only natural to feel all the different emotions. And I think it's healthy to feel all the different emotions.
mm,
But the more I become aware of, oh, I'm frightened, I'm anxious looking at the hundreds of emails in my inbox that I haven't processed yet. I feel my heart beat, I feel pressure. Okay, can I just take 30 seconds, 60 seconds to just breathe slowly? It's okay, I'll get through it. Maybe I can't feel joy in that moment, but I can raise my state from one of anxiety to one of it's okay, let's say. So I think our role is always to go, can I raise my emotional state just by a few steps. I don't have to
Mm.
go from frustration to joy. That's hard. That's a hard step to take. But yeah, so I think it's unrealistic to expect that we should live in joy all the time. And I'm not sure we'd want to, but we can strive to, as I said, to feel just a little, to raise ourselves up.
Mm.
But I think it's important to say that if we feel anger, it's okay to feel anger.
Mm.
If I feel fear, it's okay to feel fear. We shouldn't just be suppressing those challenging emotions and just putting a smile on top of something. If you're really grieving a friend who has passed away, why would you want to feel joy? Maybe after a while you can, and you can start celebrating their life instead of saying that it's terrible, terrible, terrible. You can celebrate their life. But I think it's natural to have different states of emotions,
Mm.
as long as we don't get stuck.
Mm.
Don't want to get stuck in a negative emotion.
Susan, you said it's okay to feel anger, it's okay to feel fear. I remember recently I heard the podcast from Brené Brown, The Diary of CEO, and she was saying that what I understood is people fear, like they are afraid of feeling joy in front of others. So do you think it's also courageous to show your joy, and why do we, like, if it's true, why do we fear feeling joy and excited?
We want to fit in. People want to fit in, because imagine going back decades, not decades, eons, like back to when we were all living in much more primitive circumstances. We could not survive without each other. You know, a single person would be not able to survive, because we needed the tribe, we needed the community, we needed the protection physically as well. So if I do not fit in, if my peer group, if my tribe rejects me, I'm effectively gonna be an outcast. I'm not gonna live very long. And so a big part of our wiring is to fit in, is to be liked and be on good terms. And so if I feel too much joy all the time, it could be that my inbuilt system is saying, I won't be fitting in with others because everybody else is miserable.
Mm.
So, because what happens sometimes, if a lot of good things are going on for me, but not for my peer group, they're going to feel, in comparison, they're going to feel less than. And you've probably experienced it. You're going through a tough time and you meet your friend, and your friend is, oh, just have fun, have a drink. It becomes exhausting. If that person is just full of joy all the time, it can become quite exhausting, because you need to meet people where they're at. I need to be able to listen to my friend who's not in a good place, and put myself aside and just be there for my friend. So if we just walk around in this blissful ignorance, I'm not sure we're actually empathizing with others so much. We shouldn't be dragged down by others, but we can. A good friend, I think, will listen um, and share their own joy when the other person. Yeah, listen is hard to come up with something steadfast, but does that make sense what I'm saying? Of course, we should share our joy, but not to the point where we ignore where other people are at.
I'm looking like, how can we have this balance between emotional intelligence, empathy, compassion, and being an example, right? Because when I do this inner work and I really want to change, and I'm changing from within, and I feel more joyful, I want to be an example so people can, change their emotional state
Yeah,
with me.
I think the example is to have to listen to people where they're at, to have patience to listen to people, and help that person to think differently about their situation. We can do that. The person can do that when we feel we are okay. We can fully focus on somebody else. So it's not about standing on a mountaintop and just beaming joy, 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 joy. Come and join me up here. Well, I'm sorry. I'm at the bottom of the mountaintop. I can't just climb up. How do you want me to get there? I don't have a helicopter. That's not helpful. What's helpful is that you used your abundance of energy to go down to the level where somebody's at and help them find their way through the darkness for part of that tunnel and help them a little bit further up, perhaps that mountain. That's useful.
And again, I really liked how much you were concentrating on these patterns, and I'm thinking about this helper pattern when I want to help them, not to help them like I really have to, carry them and go up. No, I just listen, I ask questions, and then they will help themselves on their own just by me reflecting with them, right?
Yeah, if you try to carry them, you're gonna run out of steam. It's gonna be a very heavy, and they will become reliant on you carrying them, which is not right. It can be right for a short amount of time. If somebody is deep in grief or something, yes, they can really lean on you. But the idea is that everybody begins to reframe a little bit how we think about the world. Because what's really hard is when we're in a victim mindset. That person did this to me. My employer did this to me. They did that to me. And I can't believe they did that to me. And I'm stuck in this belief. And it's such a negative, low vibration. I blame and I'm the victim. And good, it might be true. It might be absolutely true that somebody did that to me and somebody scammed me or whatever. All of that could be true. But how's that helping me? How's that helping me as a victim to say I'm a victim and this was done against me and I don't know how to get past this? It's not helping me. I need to get that story out of my system, complain, yes, and then let's draw a line. What can you do from here? I know it hurt, but can we accept it? And how can we move forward? What's another way of looking at this? Can you look at this from a point of view that you're learning something, that you're expanding, that you are somehow becoming wiser, or that because when we see our challenges as growth opportunities, it reframes everything.
Yeah. While you are listening to the Core Impact podcast, please take a moment to pause and share with me. How do you feel? Are you enjoying the conversation, feeling inspired, or something else? I would love to know your feelings in the comments. Since it's happening a lot, Susanne, I would like you to explain in simple terms, what is burnout and how can we be aware of it, know if it's happening to us or others around us?
So burnout, according to modern or recent statistics, is happening to a lot of people, unfortunately. And it's a state where we've been using more resources than we have available. So it means that we are depleting our body and our mind. We're running on, so we're extracting resources. So one example is if we're working in a modern office, let's say we're a manager, project manager, we have a million things to do every day. We have many, 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 many fires to put out. I'm constantly running on adrenaline, must do this, must do that. There's constantly, whoo, whoo, whoo. All day I'm running on adrenaline. And it's very common for people to work that way because most employees get more work than they can manage. So if I'm in a state of this kind of panic all day, I enjoy it because my company needs me and I get a lot accomplished and they pay me for it. And it can become quite addictive to be in this state of high levels of adrenaline. But what happens in my body is that it draws out, it is a high intensity state. I require a lot of resource, I require a lot of minerals, I require a lot of energy. So if I don't replenish myself, if I don't get the right amount of nutrients, if I don't get the right amount of sleep, if I don't get the right amount of downtime, spending time in nature, exercising, whatever all those things are, I'm beginning to draw resources out of my body, literally. You'll be low on all the vital vitamins and minerals. And at some point, the body says, stop. I don't have more to give. And it's going to make sure you lie down. So you get sick. And some people never recover from a burnout because the body was so depleted that it's near impossible for them to come back. Now, fortunately, many people have a burnout. They don't go to that. They don't have this worst case burnout. They feel burned out, and they're able to, with the right amount of rest, come back. So that's what we want to avoid. So that's what burnout was. Now you had a second part of your question.
So how can we realize it in an early stage in ourselves or others around us?
Yeah. So we talked earlier today about noticing what's going on in our body. How am I feeling right now? And that honest check-in with how am I feeling and what's going on for me has to be step number one. Because I have a slide when I run some trainings on this. There are physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, many different types of symptoms we have. And sometimes we say, yeah, I feel a bit tired. I get colds and flus. I have aches and pains. But it's normal. It's normal. Everybody has that. And so we normalize our symptoms. Yes, I have difficulty sleeping. Yes, I drink a bit too much, but it's normal. So we must not, should not normalize these symptoms. We should take our own symptoms seriously and say, actually, maybe I am heading towards burnout. So that's step number one, is to be honest with our own symptoms and what we are experiencing, and then maybe actually ask for help. So help can come from a good friend, it can come from a coach, it can come from a therapist, it can come from anyone who's willing to listen and who has some understanding of this topic. Because what a coach would do, if I was coaching somebody, I would ask them, and the book goes into that. Yeah, the book helps somebody to actually recognize that. Where do you lose energy and where can you gain energy? So let's say every day I go to work, I come home drained, absolutely drained. Okay, well, what is it then that happens during the weekend if you energize yourself? What is it that you do during a weekend that energizes you? And it's about energy balance. It's about, well, if you enjoy playing your guitar, or if you enjoy going running, or if you enjoy going to church, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, can you do a little bit more of that? In fact, can you do so much more of it that the energy balance, that there is balance, so that you don't continuously drain yourself? Intuitively, we all know what we need to do. We all know how we can avoid burnout. Maybe sometimes it's about getting help at home and delegating some of the chores at home. But people don't do it. So a good coach can help somebody to get honest with themselves and start taking action on what they need to do.
See, Susan, one of my previous guests, her name is Megumi Miki. She is the author of Quietly Powerful. She asked me a question that she asked me to ask the right person in the future guest, this question. So this question is, I'm going to ask you, what will it take for organizations to truly start valuing diversity of style and thought in leadership?
I think it's education, to be honest, because if you have a top management team who understand that when we have diversity of thought, we are going to be much more innovative, then we'll begin to value it. And everything has to come from the top down in that respect, because the company culture is set. Really, you can change it from the bottom. It's more hard. You've got to have the senior leadership team emulate and model those behaviors. So they need to understand intellectually first that this is clever. It's a clever choice when we're able to employ people who are diverse, because all studies show that that creates more creativity, better innovation. Not just people's different backgrounds ethnically, but also coming from different industries. They've seen different things. It's like cross-pollinating. So that's what I think it will take.
And do you have a question, Susan, that you've been reflecting on, you're curious to hear, and your perspective about that you want me to ask a suitable future guest discussion?
Probably what their biggest transformational experience was.
Okay. So a story.
Mhm. I like stories.
Mm. Do you like to end with any thought, even maybe a story that you wanted to share that I haven't asked you about, or anything that I didn't ask you? It's like the final words
Mhm.
that you can share with the audience.
Well, I would say to people, change is possible. So whatever patterns you have, whatever you is going on for you at the moment, you're not where you want to be, anything can change. Tony Robbins tends to say that we overestimate what we can change in a year, but we underestimate what we can change in a decade. So change can take time, especially if you're changing your wiring, your perceptions. But in 5 to 10 years, you can be in a completely different place. Not in a year, but in 5 to 10 years, you could really change yourself
Mm,
and your experience of the world. And it starts from within. It really begins with changing your own wiring.
mm.
And there's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of programs and coaches and, yeah. So anything is possible.
Susan, I really enjoyed the conversation with you. They were thought-provoking ideas. I like that you asked me questions. I like that um, like this is inner leadership or inner work, but at the same time, critical thinking in action. So I feel like you're very looking at things really from different perspectives. And there were things, yeah, to be honest, maybe I expected something else as an answer, but I was really doing my best not to expect anything and just to be open and to see your perspective and to know more about you. So really grateful to have you on the podcast. And yeah, if you want to say anything in the end, you can still say. I will put your LinkedIn in the description so people can also know more about you and the books, of course.
Mm. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Susan.